Welcome back, everyone. My name is Michael LeBlanc, Director and Senior Portfolio Manager at Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management, and welcome to Mike on Money, where we do a deep dive into everything financial, things that might affect your portfolios, things to keep an eye out, and different strategies that you might want to apply to your financial plan. And this week, we're going to talk about cryptocurrencies, and we're going to focus today's conversation on Bitcoin, probably the most popular, the most well-known cryptocurrency out there. And specifically, we're going to talk about the recent run-up that we've seen during this pandemic in the Bitcoin price and the popularity and the discussion around it. We're not going to take too big a deep dive into cryptocurrency itself and how it's managed. That's a whole other conversation as to how they're created, the mining of them, etc. So we're not going to go into that side of things. We're going to focus mostly on why it's popular, why we're seeing the rise in price, and what might affect that over time. Now, of course, Bitcoin's not the only cryptocurrency out there. There's many different ones out there. Ripple, Bitcoin, Litecoin's another big popular one. And one of the reasons we're really talking about this during the pandemic is the nature of the cryptocurrency. It's unregulated. It's an alternative to cash, to your local currency, the Canadian dollar, the US dollar, that is not controlled by governments. It is strictly controlled by open market. So obviously there's nothing back in the cryptocurrency's value, just like there's nothing back in the US dollar other than the commitment of the government to honor that currency. And much like cryptocurrencies, their values based on demand, first of all, but then the ability for people to use that, whether through trading to other people or in exchange for other currencies, or for purchasing power. And that's where cryptocurrencies haven't quite got there. They're not widely accepted, obviously, for purchases for the general economy. That's where they want to get to. They've predominantly been held not captive, but limited to the underground market. So whether it be criminal activity, it's certainly been used for. People who want to trade goods or trade services that may be in that gray market. They don't want it traceable by the governments. They don't want it to be taxed by the governments. And this is where the cryptocurrencies have been having their heyday. But Bitcoin's been the most popular one. We saw a big run up in Bitcoin when it came to real popularity back in 2018. It got to its peak. I think it got to roughly $17,000. One Bitcoin to $17,000 US on an exchange. And then it fell down after 2018. We'd lost a lot of traction. It went below the 5,000 mark, which is for a lot of people who had bought it, obviously up at those high levels. It hurt now. Prior to 2018, 5 years from that, you were buying it around $1 US. So people who bought it in very early stages did very, very well. People who bought it in later stages obviously saw a massive drop in that value. Now, through the pandemic, we've seen this resurgence, getting to a new record high, breaking through 20,000 US for Bitcoin. So now it's back in the popular mindset again. Is this kind of the next stage of global currencies? Are cryptos going to take over the world? But they've got a lot of issues. There's a lot of things coming to light here. I mean, one is a limited supply, which is why we're seeing the prices run up so much. I believe the last number I saw is about 21 million Bitcoin in existence. So when you go to buy it or you want to trade it, you have to have someone who's willing to sell it. So limited supply out there is creating definitely a surge in the price. So just a supply and demand situation. But why are we seeing this surge? Obviously, people speculating on it, but also, again, that movement to move away from the track and move away from the regulators. Which is what brought it into more popular light is Facebook. About a year ago, just over a year ago now, I guess, they came out with Libra. So this is a cryptocurrency that they want to create for their users to be able to trade in their marketplace, basically bringing cryptocurrencies closer to mainstream, where services could be exchanged, goods could be exchanged. Facebook's got their big marketplace. Facebook's got a lot of users right away, and also a market to trade by and exchange, a cryptocurrency much more mainstream than we've seen with the other ones, even Bitcoin. Although there's a lot of apps out there that you can have and wallets that you can carry Bitcoin or other cryptos in. It's still not become really mainstream, available to everybody. So Libra brought it back into the spotlight when Facebook came out with their plan. Right away, the regulators in countries got very worried because this could be a problem. Again, no regulation over the cryptocurrencies. So countries around the world started doing some deep dive investigation around how they're going to handle cryptocurrencies, how they're going to regulate cryptocurrencies, how they're going to monitor that. Canada included, the EU's got some upcoming legislation around cryptocurrency, a lot around anti-money laundering rules. Lithuania, Russia, China, Japan, South Korea, Australia, Singapore, the US, of course, Mexico, almost every country around the world, every G20 country around the world has certainly started to do their deep dive investigation into what a cryptocurrency market would look like and what type of regulations that they would require to put into place. Because remember, right now there is basically no regulation around it. And the media and certainly the propaganda out there, that the US is being kind of mocked a little bit, is they talk about, oh well, it's all about anti-terrorism, right? Because money can be exchanged behind, in the deep web, behind regulators, behind the authorities' knowledge. They want to protect kids. There's a lot of stuff being thrown around. Mentioned money laundering in Europe's been a big issue or a big concern that they've raised. But what are the real concerns about this currency? Well, think about it. If the free market started to move to cryptocurrencies in general, whether it be Libra, Bitcoin, or any other one, governments start to lose control of a lot of things. Yes, absolutely, money laundering. We have a lot of money laundering rules around the movement of currencies globally right now, and none of that exists behind your cryptos. So right away, that's definitely an issue that governments are concerned with. But also think about the economies. Governments use their currencies, whether interest rates, increase in supply, to control things like inflation, trade. Canada's a big exporting country, so if our dollar goes over par with the US, that can slow down trade. So Canada usually likes to stay a little bit lower. Same with a lot of other countries. They look at their trading partners, they look at the values of their currencies, and they can increase or decrease trade by managing that currency to help the economy. If the cryptocurrencies just left a free market, a global free market, that takes the government control out of that process. So that takes the economic growth or inflation potential out of their control to some extent. So they're not happy about that. Taxation, right? If you buy goods and sell goods in your currency, that's tracked. If you buy and sell, government currencies, that's tracked. Foreign exchange trading, it's tracked for taxation purposes. All that goes away if there's no monitor and there's no regulation around that. And then of course, there's the safety of the consumer. There has been fraud and theft around the cryptos and specifically Bitcoin. So you've got this whole globe coming together to saying, hey, how do we protect people? How do we protect ourselves? How do we protect our currencies from being taken over by a global, unregulated, untracked cryptocurrency out there, whether it's Bitcoin or Libra or the other. So countries are doing massive research. They're doing a lot of investigating. And I do believe at some point, a cryptocurrency or multiple cryptocurrencies are going to become more mainstream, but they are going to become much more heavily regulated, right? The governments, they need to be able to track tax on this. They need to be able to control the economic movement of these currencies, and they can't do that if it's completely unregulated. As I mentioned, there's been a lot of theft. Sort of just to backtrack a little bit, cryptocurrencies are traded on these exchanges, but you never physically own a cryptocurrency. It is electronic currency. You have something called a wallet, so there's different apps you can download usually on your phone, that holds that cryptocurrency, and the whole blockchain tracks that you have that cryptocurrency. But if you lose your phone, or you delete that app, or even if you forget your key code to get into that app, those can just disappear. And depending on the app or that wallet that is holding your crypto, and we've seen this already a couple of times, where the head of that company or individuals in that company have just, whether lost it. There was one that they lost their password, the person died, no one could get access to it. Eventually they did, but all the crypto was gone in there. So your wallet that you thought you had this in there just disappeared, and it was hundreds of millions of dollars that disappeared. We've seen some of the exchanges become fraudulent, and you thought you traded for some, but you didn't. Again, it was embezzled or stolen or taken. It's hard to track where it goes because, again, there's no physical form, there's no regulation around it. So some people have lost money to theft. We've even had stories of someone who had it on their hard drive on their computer. They had their wallet on there. It was worth 10 cents, or I believe at the time. He got a new computer, didn't think anything of it because, he had so few, it was only a few dollars. And then, of course, when we had the run up there to, I think it was around $15,000 US, he was rummaging through the dump where he had thrown out the computer to try to find that hard drive because now it was worth a significant amount of money. So there are dangers to cryptocurrencies you have to keep in mind. There's definitely going to be regulation that's going to come into this market. And what is that going to look like for the Bitcoins of the world, especially Bitcoin, being such a high valuation? If the governments come in and regulate it, does it become less attractive? If governments come out with their own version or, different versions that are regulated, which makes Bitcoin a bit more obsolete when it comes to the popularity that it has currently, what happens to its value? Does it just stay kind of in the underworld, the gray market, or does it become mainstream and follow those regulations? That's the big challenge around it right now. We do see this surge. I mentioned it's gone over the $20,000 US recently. So there's some argument saying that cryptocurrencies are becoming the new gold, the hedge against inflation in other currencies or the risk in other currencies and other markets. So as we get into these high, new highs in the S&P 500 and NASDAQ and global indexes around the world, the US dollar is weak, and that's usually a signal for gold. And gold has rallied through this. Not as much as we would like, but it's still early stages. But we've seen Bitcoin, it has rallied. So people looking to Bitcoin to be that hedge against global currencies. And that's going to be the battle. Is it going to maintain that popularity, or is regulation going to crush it? And then who comes out the winner? Does Libra become the new standard? As I mentioned, the Facebook. Obviously, there's other tech giants out there like Google and Amazon. Do they start to foray into cryptocurrency? Do they start accepting cryptocurrencies? And if so, which one? That could definitely shift the playing field if a player like Amazon decided, hey, we're going to accept a cryptocurrency as payment for the marketplace, but which one do they choose, right? Do they choose Bitcoin? Do they choose their own? It could be anything. So there's still a lot of risk in this market. There are more institutional players. There are some mutual funds out there you can buy. There's some closed-end ETFs you can buy that invest in cryptocurrencies. Of course, you're subject to the volatility of the underlying value of these things because they do move dramatically day to day. There's a lot of volatility in their exchange rates. You might buy, if you're buying through those funds, do try to do your research around what cryptos are, which cryptos that those managers are going to hold or those funds are going to hold. What strategy they put around, how much is of it Bitcoin, how much of it is Litecoin. As I said, there's multiple. What's your liquidity to get out of that? Because that's one of the challenges when you do buy Bitcoins. Liquidity is tough sometimes, or any crypto for that matter. There are apps, trade-in apps that you can actually buy cryptos on kind of an exchange. You do pay a premium for the buy and sell, just like you would with any currency, where the app takes their cut for the transaction. So you can foray into there. I would say do your research though. Just don't go off the hype of the current run up in price that we've seen, or the current run up in valuation. Do know why you're buying it in your portfolio, as always. Do know what you're trying to use that for, and do your research kind of around what the possible risks are. So with that, I'm going to close off. Remember, everything we talk about here is for educational purposes only. Do not take it as advice in your portfolio. Always contact a professional or do your own due diligence before investing or applying any strategy. And with that, you can reach us at mikeonmoney.com, where you can find information on this, all our other videos that we've done, our weekly reports, and just answer any questions that you might have. So take care. I'll talk to you. This is December 10th, so I'll talk to you most likely in the new year. But thank you, everyone, and take care.